I once thought words spoken in anger were fleeting and inconsequential, mere echoes that faded into the background of our lives. But I learned, often the hard way, that a single phrase can strike deeper than any physical blow, leaving scars that linger long after the moment has passed. "Why don't you just vanish?" Mia's voice sliced through the air at the dinner table, sharp and precise like a knife. Yet she spoke with a calmness that belied the storm brewing within. This wasn't the childish outburst of her youth. This was a statement crafted with meticulous thought, as if she had rehearsed it in her mind countless times before delivering it. Rachel had initially broached the idea that perhaps I was the one who should leave, but it was Mia's words that hit the hardest, resonating through the very marrow of my being. For a moment, I thought I must have misheard. Perhaps the weight of her statement had rattled me so profoundly that my mind filled in the gaps with doubt. Yet, Rachel's voice, steady and devoid of the fury I anticipated, only confirmed the reality that had unfurled before me like a dark cloud. I waited, my heart pounding in my chest, for her to retract her statement, to soften its impact, or to show even a hint of remorse. Instead, the atmosphere shifted irreparably as she lifted her wine glass and took a deliberate sip, her gaze averted, as if she were trying to distance herself from the chaos she had just unleashed. Have you ever noticed that silence can be more than just the absence of sound? This silence felt like a heavy weight pressing down on my chest, constricting my breath and filling the room with an oppressive tension. I turned to face Mia, my daughter not by blood but by choice. My heart ached at the thought of what had transpired. When I married Rachel, Mia was just 12 years old. Over the years, I had invested time and effort into nurturing a bond with her that was built on late-night conversations about everything from films to literature. She often feigned disinterest in my jokes, but I knew she found them amusing. I had been there for her during the struggles of her childhood, helping with homework while her real father, Jordan, had vanished for years without a trace. Yet, in this moment, all those memories felt erased, wiped clean by the power of words. I could have retaliated, demanded an explanation, or reminded them both that Jordan, the man who provided the DNA, had abandoned them. I had witnessed it all, but instead of engaging in a futile argument, I rose from my chair. The sound of wood scraping against the floor reverberated in the room, a stark reminder of my departure as I walked through the house, the weight of their stairs pressing against my back like an unbearable burden. I wanted to look back, to gauge Rachel's reaction or see if Mia was taken aback by her own words, but I denied them that satisfaction, determined to maintain my dignity. Entering our bedroom, I opened the closet and retrieved my old duffel bag. I wasn't packing in a frenzy. I was methodical, choosing each item carefully as if I were preparing for a journey into the unknown. I included a toothbrush, a phone charger, a few days' worth of clothes, and my passport. As I packed, I noticed my hands were steady, surprising me. I had envisioned myself in a state of despair, begging for understanding and forgiveness, but instead, an unnatural calm enveloped me. I could hear the clatter of dishes as Rachel cleared the table and the hurried footsteps of Mia, retreating to her room. Yet no one came to stop me. The stark realization dawned on me. They didn't care. They weren't expecting me to fight for my place in their lives. For the first time, I understood the depth of my solitude. I zipped up my bag, slung it over my shoulder, and felt like a stranger in my own home. As I descended the stairs, Rachel leaned against the kitchen counter, arms crossed, her expression inscrutable. Neither angry nor apologetic, just waiting. "So, you're just going to leave?" she asked, her tone laced with an unsettling mixture of curiosity and indifference. I met her gaze, reaching into my pocket for my keys. "You said we'd be better off," I replied, my voice steady. Her lips parted, as if she would respond, but she hesitated, caught in a conflict between pride and guilt. I turned toward the door, gripping the handle tightly. Before leaving, I glanced back one last time. "You know," I said softly. When Mia said those words, they hurt. I paused, taking a breath. "But when you didn't deny it, that shattered something inside me. Rachel blinked, her expression revealing nothing. No cutting retort, no last-minute apology. I opened the door, and the cold night air hit my face like a splash of reality, bringing with it a clarity I hadn't felt in hours. I stepped outside, got into my car, and drove away, not daring to look back. It wasn't until I pulled into Noah's driveway that the gravity of the situation truly hit me. It wasn't just a fight or a bad night. I may never return to that house, to that life. Strangely, I wasn't certain if I wanted to. Unless we stopped Jordan. Mia is his next investment. I muttered to myself, the weight of the truth sinking in. For the first time, I saw Rachel's hands tremble around her phone. Horror etched across her face as she processed the implications of our situation. "You have a plan?" she whispered, her voice laced with uncertainty. I sighed, my resolve hardening. We officially and openly remove him from her life. Rachel's expression darkened, a mixture of fear and doubt crossing her features. "You want to bait him? Lucas, if we do this, Mia will hate us." I locked eyes with her, my determination unwavering. I'd rather she despise me for protecting her than for allowing him to ruin her future. Rachel sighed deeply, her brow furrowing with concern. She might forgive you eventually, but she could also hate you for letting him tear her world apart. I shrugged, a sense of grim acceptance washing over me. At least I'll know I did something, even if it doesn't work out. Rachel contemplated my words for a moment before nodding, a flicker of understanding passing between us. I pulled up Jordan's most recent text from the family group chat. "I'm excited to reveal the big announcement at dinner tomorrow night." A grin spread across my face as I realized we had a chance to confront him. The following evening, I found myself outside the venue, watching as guests arrived, each one blissfully unaware of the storm about to unfold. Rachel sat beside me, twisting a napkin in her hands, her anxiety palpable. "Are you sure this will work?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded toward a black vehicle parked nearby. "It's already working." Inside the restaurant, 3 parents were seated near federal agents, all of us playing our roles in this unfolding drama. Jordan, completely oblivious to the web we had spun around him, was about to pitch his fictitious business while wearing a covert microphone. We were ready to catch him in the act of deception. "Mia's going to be upset," Rachel murmured, her voice tinged with concern. "You still want to go through with this?" I asked, turning to her, searching for any sign of doubt. "Would you rather let her hand her college funds to a scammer?" I countered, my heart racing at the thought of losing her trust. Rachel remained silent, lost in her thoughts as the tension in the air thickened. I opened the car door and stepped inside the restaurant, every nerve in my body heightened with anticipation. Jordan sat at the head of a long table, surrounded by conversation, exuding confidence like a man who believed he was untouchable. I wanted to confront him physically, to unleash my pent-up frustration, but instead, I moved forward, a bright smile plastered on my face. Jordan's smile faltered upon seeing me, his feigned surprise barely masking his discomfort. "Lucas," he greeted, his voice dripping with insincerity. "Hosting a family dinner? Thought I should be invited." His smile remained, but I pressed on, my tone casual yet pointed. "You have a once-in-a-lifetime investment opportunity here. Just a few thousand from the people you care about." Jordan's expression shifted slightly, unease creeping into his demeanor. "I don't believe this is the moment or place," he replied, attempting to regain control of the situation. "Actually, it's the perfect moment," I countered, just as agents appeared at the doorway, their presence commanding immediate attention. Jordan's face drained of color, his bravado shattered as he stood abruptly. "There must be a mistake," he stammered, panic rising in his voice. "There isn't," another agent stated firmly, holding up a folder that contained the evidence of his misdeeds. "We have proof of investment fraud, wire fraud, and securities fraud." As the agents moved in, Jordan turned to Mia, desperation etched across his features. "I don't know what they're talking about," he pleaded, but I could see the truth dawning on Mia's face as her wide-eyed gaze darted between us. "What's happening?" she asked, confusion and fear mingling in her voice. I locked eyes with her, the weight of the moment pressing down on both of us. "Did your real family protect you, or did he?" Jordan was handcuffed and led away, leaving the restaurant in stunned silence, as if a calamity had just unfolded. Some guests gasped in shock, while others sat frozen, unsure of how to react to the unfolding drama. The only reaction that truly mattered was Mia's. She stood motionless, fists clenched, shoulders tense. The illusion of her world shattered before my eyes. I approached her cautiously, my heart racing. But before I could speak, Mia's voice cut through the tension. "You ambushed him," she exclaimed, her tone sharp but wavering with emotion. "Listen to me," I pleaded, desperate to reach her. "Jordan wasn't who you thought he was." Her face flushed with anger. "I knew exactly who he was," she shot back, her eyes blazing with hurt. Rachel gently placed her hand on Mia's arm in an attempt to calm her. "Sweetie, he was defrauding you and all of us," she explained softly, but Mia ripped her arm away, her face a mask of betrayal. "You lied to me. You humiliated him in front of everyone." Rachel's expression fell as Mia gasped for breath, tears shimmering in her eyes. "I trusted you," she choked out, her voice trembling. "You didn't have to do this. You didn't have to ruin everything." Rachel tried again, but Mia shook her head angrily. "You didn't want me to date him. You were just looking for a reason to get rid of him." My jaw tightened, frustration boiling within me. "That's not true," I asserted, but Mia stared at me, challenging my words. "Isn't it?" she replied, her voice laced with accusation. I inhaled deeply, trying to steady myself. "Mia, if he wasn't guilty, why'd he? If he loved you, why did he ask you to stop seeing me? Why did he need to lie to your mother?" "He was trying to help me by stealing your college fund," I said softly, my heart aching for her. Mia's breathing became shaky, and the reality began to sink in. "Investment?" she whispered, the weight of the truth crashing down around her. "It wasn't an investment, Mia. It was a hoax," I replied gently, allowing her the space to process the betrayal. "And you weren't the only one he was trying to deceive." Tears finally fell from her eyes, a heartbreaking release of pent-up sadness and confusion. I didn't reach for her. I allowed her to stand there, arms wrapped around herself as the reality set in. Rachel reached for her again, but Mia stepped back, her expression resolute. "I need to go." Rachel looked at me helplessly, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and sorrow. But I shook my head, knowing that pushing too hard would only drive Mia further away. As she walked out of the restaurant, head down, shoulders tight with the weight of her emotions, Rachel exhaled, her defeat palpable. "She hates us," she murmured, her voice breaking slightly. I disagreed, a flicker of hope igniting within me. "She doesn't hate me," I said, turning my gaze toward the door Mia had exited. "We wait." The hardest part was the waiting. 3 days passed in silence, no calls, no texts. Rachel checked her phone every 5 minutes at first. By the second day, she stopped mentioning Mia altogether. By the third day, she appeared drained, her spirit dimmed by the uncertainty. I hardly slept, convincing myself I was just waiting for Mia to reach out, but deep down, I feared she never would. Then, on the 4th morning, my phone buzzed loudly, nearly causing me to spill my coffee. It was Mia, texting to ask if we could talk. My heart raced as I typed my reply, my fingers trembling with anticipation. We had shared countless moments at our favorite ice cream shop, and now she was asking to meet there. I grabbed my keys and hurried out, my mind racing with the possibilities of what this conversation might entail. When I arrived at the shop, it was nearly empty, the familiar scent of waffle cones and sweet toppings filling the air. Mia sat in a corner booth, cradling a small cup of mint chocolate chip, her usual flavor. She looked different, not angry or rebellious, just weary, as if the weight of the world had settled heavily on her shoulders. I slid into the seat across from her, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. She didn't look up at first, lost in her thoughts, but eventually whispered, "I don't know how to start. Just say whatever's on your mind," I encouraged softly, hoping to ease the tension that hung between us. She hesitated, gripping her cup tightly, her knuckles white from the pressure. "I really wanted it to be real," she confessed, her eyes searching mine for understanding. "You're not mad?" she asked, uncertainty lacing her voice. I shook my head, a gentle smile breaking through the heaviness. "That doesn't make you foolish, Mia. It makes you human," I reassured her, my heart aching for the vulnerability she displayed. She exhaled shakily, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly as she processed my words. "I just didn't want to be wrong," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I reached out, offering my hand just close enough for her to take it if she wished, a silent gesture of support. "You weren't wrong about everything," I said gently. "You just trusted the wrong person." The weight of our shared pain hung between us, but in that moment, I felt a flicker of hope. Hope that we could rebuild what had been shattered, one conversation at a time.